advice, you know. So we get an all-around view. Upadeśāmṛta, actually not loud enough for me to actually, Upadeśāmṛta is Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. You found where to go? Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's a little more. So, the Upadeśāmṛta is telling us what we have to do, isn't it? This is the instruction book of what we have to do. To attain what?
Bhakti, Krishna prema.
Yes. That's not an easy thing to attain. Although it's been made accessible, right? It has been made accessible. We cannot deny that Caitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give that which was never given before, except by him in the previous day of Brahma. So that highest of all praying, if we wanted to just study that subject alone, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, there is an incredible book I have on my bookshelf. I've been looking at it. Maybe you heard of it before. It's written by Prabhupada Saraswati. Yes. Caitanya Chandramrita. That will be an ocean of nectar in itself for us to go through. And I did that one time in Vrindavan with a small version of it. Now we have the version done by Sarva Padmanabha Swami, Bengali, God brother. And it's got this wonderful purport by some Vaishnava personality who was recognized by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati named Anandi. So his commentary is there. And then Sarva Bhavana also wrote a very nice commentary, very relevant. And that book is it's definitely on the list. So then Harinam Chintamani is what? Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And what is the book about?
Lord Chaitanya is asking Haridas Thakur questions about the holy name.
That's right. And Haridas Thakur is speaking everything. So to study, after we've heard from the Upadeśāmṛta how to practice, and especially the 8th verse, how to come to that point in our bhajan. That's all about Nam Bhajan. Nam Rupa Guna Lila. And Haridas Thakur is the Namacharya. So therefore Bhaktivinoda Thakur has manifested this Harinam Chintamani book, so that we can hear directly from Namacharya Haridas Thakur. So that's also very relevant and helpful, right? And we are not forgetting Manasiksha. We'll have to go into the Manasiksha. But then we'll also have to go into the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami. What is bhakti? How to do bhakti, which we also have. And we have the Sindhu Bindu, Gurudev has given. So like this, there's a continuing list of books that we will have to taste and relish and try to take deeply within our hearts. So today is the first day of what month? Yes. And actually we didn't even mention it this afternoon. I thought after the program, what? We didn't even mention it.
The 4th month of Chaturmas. It says on the calendar.
Well, what did you say? It's the 4th month? It says on the
calendar, fasting from Urdal.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like that, fasting.
Yeah, it's followed by, in the same way as the 4th month, Kartik, right? Same way, if someone is following it. So, but there's a fantastic Katha from Srila Bhaktivigyan Bharati Maharaj about the Purushottam month. And it's combining statements directly from this Purushottam month, which most persons in India, they don't understand. Like the materialistic persons, they consider it a contaminated month. You know how Purushottam month happens? And how often it happens?
Every 4 years, because
No. Every 2 years, 8 months, and 16 days, and one little extra section. 2 years, 8 months, 16 days, and then like a section of a day.
300 days, some over 300.
What?
Oh,
300 days?
Oh,
What are you talking about?
no, you said 3 years. Yeah, that's right.
I said 2 years,
2 years,
8
8
months,
months,
16 days. And it's how the lunar calendar and the solar calendar are somehow or other adjusted. He explains, Bhakti Glenn Bhartavar's explains it very interesting. So anyway, let's get started. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataram. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahabhadannaya Krishna Prema Vidayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Trishe Namaha. Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayani Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janabhavatai Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Radhe Vrindavanadi Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyam Mahyam Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Radha Govinda Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jagannatha Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Upadeśāmṛtam Ki Jai. Shri Nectar of Instruction Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. So my Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of my most worshipful beloved Diksha and Siksha Gurudev's Nitya Lila Pravishta and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Asto Tarashata Shri Shila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarashata Shri Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat pranams to all our Shri Shri Rupa Yuga Guru Marga. My Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavas. So today, you know how to turn this a little louder?
Thank you.
Haribol, Haribol, Hare Krishna, Haribol, Haribol. Okay, that's good. Haribol, Haribol, Hare Krishna. So, we have read the introduction already, or sorry, the preface. Haribol, it's a little too loud. Haribol, Haribol, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. So we read the preface written by Srila Gurudev in his book, and we have not read yet the preface of Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Instruction. Okay, so it's very short, but I just want to read this preface by Srila Prabhupada. Very short. Srila Prabhupada is saying, the Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or Bengali Vaishnavas, are mostly followers of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoive Akuti Kabe Hama Bujhabo Se Jugala Priti. When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and to follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow Sri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta, and Dasa Raghunath. Srila Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us this Upadeśāmṛta, the nectar of instruction to follow. As Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the 8 verses known as Sikshastakam, so Rupa Goswami gave us Upadeśāmṛta, so that we may become pure Vaishnavas. Why did Rupa Goswami give us Sri Upadeśāmṛta?
The followers could become pure Vaishnavas.
So Prabhupada is making the comparison to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, that in the very condensed way, Caitanya Mahaprabhu himself gave us the Sikshastakam. And he's comparing that to how Rupa Goswami, in a very condensed way, gave us this Upadeśāmṛta. So here's the instruction right from the lotus mouth of our beloved Srila Prabhupada, that the purpose of him giving this for us is that we may become pure devotees. So naturally we have to conclude that if we are truly aiming to become pure devotees at some point in our progress of our spiritual lives, then we will have to carefully follow this book of Rupa Goswami. He's also saying that if someone really wants to attain what Caitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give, then they'll have to follow the 6 Goswamis, is it not? They're the leaders. The 6 Goswamis who are direct disciples of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and who know fully what Caitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. So for our guidance, Rupa Goswami, it says here, Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, we know that. That's why we're called, our line of acharyas is the Rupanuga Sampradaya. Because he's the leader. And he's the recognized one by Narottam Das Thakur. When Narottam Das Thakur prayed to Rupa Goswami with the famous Pranam mantra. You know which one?
Sri Caitanya
Manobhishtam. Yes. What's the meaning?
When will Srila Rupa go?
That Srila Rupa Goswami is coming into this world, understanding the intention of Mahaprabhu's descent into this world. And so we beg to take shelter of his lotus feet.
Yeah, a little bit more literally. Sri Caitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. What is Manobhishta?
Heart's desire.
That's right, inner Manobhishta. Inner heart's desire of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And Narottam Das Thakur is recognizing that Rupa Goswami is that very personality who did what? Yeah, and then and by understanding, what did he do? Stapitam yena bhutale.
He established in this world
the mission to fulfill the inner heart's desire of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. No one else has been glorified in the same way. So Narottam Das Thakur, he very clearly illuminated this understanding that it was Rupa Goswami who has done this. So therefore he's praying to Rupa Goswami, Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Eagerness. Rupa Raghunatha Pade. Oh, when will I become so eager? And here, when Srila Prabhupada says Rupa Raghunatha Pade means to understand the literature given by the Goswamis. So sometimes Rupa Raghunatha Pade is translated as Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Goswami, but also in Srila Prabhupada's purport to this song, Srila Prabhupada translated this as from Rupa to Raghunath, because sometimes when we say the names of all the 6 Goswamis, then we say Rupa Goswami and then Raghunath Das Goswami's name is at the end. So here Prabhupada is saying to understand the literature given by these 6 Goswamis. When will I become eager? And then he says, when I become eager for this, then what will happen? Yes. He says, Kabe Hama Bujhavo Se Jugala Priti. Jugala Priti means the loving pastimes and exchanges between the divine couple, Jugal Kishore, Radha and Krishna. Jugal Priti. Kabe Hama Bujhavo Se. Bujhavo means to understand. So, without that, it is never ever possible without the 6 Goswamis. And so, Prabhupada is saying that Caitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared in order to bestow upon the human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. And in this science of Krishna, the most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. So therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis, and he names them. All 6. So, Rupa Goswami was the leader of the Goswamis. Although even his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami, is also his guru. But yet, Rupa Goswami is the leader. He's accepted by his contribution. And so, that same Rupa Goswami, who is giving access to the most rare thing in this whole universe, he's given us to guide our activities. He's given us this Upadeśāmṛta to follow. So can we then conclude that if we're really striving to be true and real followers of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, will we not follow what is given in this Upadeśāmṛta? Or will we neglect it, ignore it, just not make any effort to apply it in our lives? No. If we really want to be followers of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, it's compulsory. It's obligatory. We cannot say that actually we are followers of Caitanya Mahaprabhu unless we are applying the instructions given by Rupa Goswami and Upadeśāmṛta. So in the beginning of our spiritual life, and we heard the Katha from the lotus mouth of Srila Prabhupada, read his books, joined his movement, came into sadhu sangha, and Prabhupada gave various regulative principles to all of his disciples. We know the story of how he gave, first of all, on a piece of paper, the day after his first group got initiated. We have the photo of that in Prabhupada's handwriting. All initiated devotees must follow the following rules and regulations, he said. Then he, number 1, number 2, number 3, right? How many were there?
8.
Something like 8, yeah. Right? no frivolous sports. Remember that one? Frivolous sports. Why did Prabhupada write no frivolous sports? Is that in line with the Upadeśāmṛta?
It has to be.
Yeah. Well, there are 6 favorable activities and 6 unfavorable mentioned by Rupa Goswami, right? Where does that one fit in?
Striving for mundane achievements.
Let's analyze by citing the verse, and let's see if we can find out. Because everything's in there. So if Prabhupada's writing no frivolous sports, frivolous, he used the word frivolous.
He's saying no or avoid.
No.
No, he's saying no frivolous sports. Are you trying to find a loophole there?
Yeah, chess has got me.
We can watch others do it. We can't do it ourselves.
An empty state.
Okay.
No.
All right. Atyahara. Atyahara.
Eating too much.
Not only, you're going to find out, it doesn't mean just eating.
Collecting.
And it also doesn't mean just collecting. Oh, I want this and I want this. No. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. It's actually in the purport as well. But this really shows you. Because Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote an entire essay for each one of these. You know?
Let's go for it.
Now, Atyahara, Prayasha. What does Prayasha mean? Over endeavor for mundane things that are too difficult to achieve. That's a very big category, is it not? Okay, Prayasha. Then, Prajalpa. What is Prajalpa?
Unnecessary talking.
You just went like this.
Well, like unnecessary talk, like
What's unnecessary? What describes what's necessary and what's unnecessary? What is in the realm of prajalpa and what is in the realm of bona fide usage of our urge to speak?
anything that
This is a really big, huge topic. Yeah.
It's ever favorable for bhakti.
What about social networking? Oh, now we're attacking at the root here.
That's the Kshatriya stuff.
Does it fall into that category? Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Hari Pujita Hari Shishi Radha Govinda Jiyo Ki Jai.
Okay.
I mean, social networking can be.
That's
be
the key word.
productive
Can.
and- Yeah. So we have to be so honest of what we're doing.
Yeah, and if we are honest, then we're going to do what? If it's not, it can be, but if it's not, then what will we do? We'll give it up. Correct?
Scroll past it.
And how does prajalpa extend into other areas? Like frivolous sports, perhaps, prajalpa, or prayasha. Niyam agraha. Oh, now comes the fourth one. Do you know the meaning of niyam agraha?
Two meanings.
It has two
Yes.
ways. It could be niyam agraha or niyam agraha.
So following the rules of sports games is in that, right? That would be on this. Yeah, they're following the rules of sports games. Each sport has a
No,
set of rules.
that's speculation.
Not following rules and regulations, which one is qualified for.
Which rules and regulations?
Bhakti.
Yeah. The rules and regulations given by our acharyas, how to live, like this Upadeśāmṛta, how to perform bhakti, what is not bhakti, all these things, right? Very vast. Niyam agraha and niyam agraha. That agraha means to neglect them, not follow properly. And agraha means accepting them, but not understanding. I mean, that's a deep topic. We'll read about how Bhaktivinoda Thakur expands upon that. But it means to not properly, not to follow with the proper understanding of why we are following it, what is the goal of following it, and so forth. So niyamagraha, janasangas, association with
Worldly minded.
worldly minded people. Janasanga. What is that? How is that applied in the modern internet era?
Frivolous sports.
It can fit there. Actually, what we found now is that no frivolous sports rule that Prabhupada gave, it fits into a number of these categories. And we'll find that most deviations, they comprise more than one. Not only one, but combination of them. And when persons become so much accustomed to not following the actual process and the actual regulations and so forth, then what happens? What happens? Their bhakti does what? Yes. Sadbhir bhakti pranashyati. Bhakti is lost. But they may not admit this fact, isn't it? That's the nature of the duplicity of the mind, which Rabindranath Das Goswami is really going to break that down for us in the Manasiksha. Because that's the actual, this hypocrisy, duplicity, deceitfulness, all of these things, that has to be completely rooted out. So anyway, this is just a brief, I'm just giving a little overview to begin our study. Srila Prabhupada is saying that in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. So, if someone is not controlling their mind and their senses, are they really living a spiritual life? No. It is synonymous. That's why the very first verse is talking about the 6 urges, how to tolerate. If someone is just throwing themselves headlong into indulging in the 6 urges, is that spiritual life? No. But yet there are so many persons trying to pass as spiritual persons, and yet they don't follow that. They indulge. Even amongst professed devotees who say, I'm a devotee, but they don't follow 2 of the regulated principles, 2 of the 4. How they can be actual devotees? No, not possible. They may be very neophyte level, and they're just not really making the endeavor. They're just not really wanting to understand how to really be a devotee. They're not ready to sit here. In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Did we not adopt that? Did we not quite radically change our lifestyle and adapted the process of controlling the mind and the senses by taking up the practice of chanting Hari Nam, by taking up the lifestyle of living in the temple and going to Artik and staying clean and all these basic things. Everyone adapted. And chanting every day, hearing Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita every day, and doing Krishna Seva, Guru Seva all day. So this was engaging our mind and our senses, and that enabled us to get on track on the path of bhakti. But without that, it would not have been possible. So, he says, everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. Is that true or not? Can we not see it? Yeah, it's very obvious. So one must promote himself to the platform of goodness, sattva gun, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami. And then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. Huh? Because what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Yes. Upayanti. Who knows that? We can all say that verse together. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te.
Those who are constantly devoted and worshiping with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Yes, Krishna is saying, Satata yuktanam, to those persons who are always engaged. Satata means constantly. Satata yuktanam. Do you know where this verse is found in the Bhagavad Gita? Right in the middle. Right in the very middle of the Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 verses. You've heard that there were 4 verses? They're called the Chatushloki. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is also 4 verses, which have been expanded into the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is in these 4 verses. And this particular verse, Prabhupada highlighted very, very much. Krishna is telling there to Arjuna, to those persons, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam, to those persons who are constantly worshipping me, priti purvakam, with priti, love and affection, priti purvakam, that means ecstatic love. Then he says, to those persons who are constantly doing this, then dadami, I give to that person. Dadami means I give. What do I give? Buddhi yogam. I give them the intelligence. Prabhupada translates this as the intelligence. Buddhi. Buddhi yogam tam. And yena mam upayantite. That means by which they will be able to come to me. Upayanti means they'll come to me. Yena mam upayantite, they will come to me. So here, Srila Prabhupada has said, one must sattva gun, instructions of Rupa Goswami, and then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. You see? This is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. If you follow this process of worshipping me constantly, you come into this path of pure bhakti, pure devotion, and the more that you develop loving affection for me, I will reveal everything to you in your heart. You know who really likes this verse? Our godbrother, Mahabuddhi Prabhu. He has a newsletter that he's been writing for many years. And at the end of the newsletter, he has quoted that verse because he has the story, and he's told it to me a number of times. He really loves this exchange he had with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada told him. That was like when they were trying to start the library party, you know. And Prabhupada quoted this verse. I don't know if it was on a morning walk or what. but he quoted that verse, Tesham Satati Yuktanam. And he told him, just do this. Just always be absorbed in this way. And then Krishna will give you all intelligence by which you can come to him. So this is what we want, because we want this personal relationship and this personal exchange with our Lord, Sri Krishna. That's why we're devotees. And Krishna is in our heart already as the Paramatma. And he says in the Gita that according to one's surrender to me, I reward them. Accordingly, I reciprocate. So this is the faultless, without fail, this process of following the Upadeśāmṛta completely, this is the process by which all of that will take place. We should know this for certain. We should have so much firm belief in this, that if I follow this, I will be successful. And if I don't follow this, it will wreak havoc on my spiritual life. My bhakti will diminish. Even to nil can happen. So, yes. Advancement, this is the final paragraph of Prabhupada's preface. He says, advancement in Krishna consciousness, it depends on the attitude of the follower. Yes? The attitude of the follower. What's our attitude? If we have opportunity to hear Hari Katha, but we don't come, find something else to do. We have the opportunity to come and do Hari Kirtan in the association of the Vaishnava, but we don't do it. We do other things. Oh, we have opportunity to observe festivals for the Lord, but we don't do it. Every possible way. We say, I'm a devotee, but yet we don't do these most essential of things. We're told by our Guru Varga, you must chant japa, you must chant every single day, a certain amount, but we don't do. So then, how can we expect that we're actually going to advance in a very constant and even rapid manner in this life? It depends on this. He says, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So a person can be around for 30, 40, 50 years. We will hope that if a person is trying to pursue in that way, certainly they have made some advancement. Certainly. Sincerity must be there. But still, it will depend on how much we are actually surrendering and how much we are actually embracing the pathway and the activities of bhakti in our lives. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. That's it right there. It's very easy to see if someone is actually applying the process of bhakti in their life or not, to what depth they are applying it. So Prabhupada is saying that a follower of the Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. In Vrindavan, this is the title by which the director of each temple is known. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. Go means the senses, and Swami means the master. Unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeśāmṛta, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. That's a pretty powerful sentence. I'm reading it again. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then becoming a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeśāmṛta, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava. But Upadeśāmṛta constitutes the first instructions for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly. Then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on Vishwarup Mahotsav Day, Krishna Balaram Mandir, Raman Reti, Vrindavan, India. Didn't say the year here. So, yes. So Prabhupada is so kindly showing us what we need to do. So, I'm just going to read quickly the first verse from Prabhupada's. And after reading Prabhupada's, then we're going to go to Gurudev's book with the other three commentaries. So now we've read the preface. And the first verse, I'm going to say the Sanskrit, and if you know the Sanskrit, you can also say it along. Or what I'll do is I'll say the line, first line, and everyone can repeat. Actually, I'll say the words first and then the first. Vacho vegam, manasa, krodha, vegam, vacho vegam, manasa, krodha vegam, jiva vegam. Now I want to point out, this word jiva is not jiva. It's jiva. Jiva means the spirit soul. But jiva means the tongue. Okay? So jiva vegam means the urge of the tongue. So jiva vegam, udara, upasta, vegam, jiva vegam, udara upasta vegam, etan vegan, yo vishaheta, dhira, etan vegan, yo vishaheta dhira, sarvam apimam shishyat. So, I'll say the word and then you can repeat. Vachaha, of speech. Vegam, urge. Manasaha, of the mind. Krodha, of anger. Vegam, urge. Jiva, of the tongue. Vegam, urge. Udara upasta, of the belly and genitals. Vegam, urge. Etan, these. Vegan, urges. Yaha, whoever. Vishaheta, can tolerate. Dhira, sober. Sarvam, all. Api, certainly. Imam, this, Prithivim, world, Saha, that personality, Shishyat, can make disciples. Repeat after me. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak. The mind's demands. The actions of anger. And the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals. Is qualified to make disciples all over the world. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Shukadev Goswami. One of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? So this is in relation to, this is actually the first chapter of the 6th canto, and the last chapter of the 5th canto was describing the punishments that the sinful jivas have to undergo by Yamaraj in the hellish planets. So there was a whole conversation there, and Parikshit Maharaj was asking Shukadev that why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? Prabhupada gives an example. He says, for instance, a thief may know perfectly well that he may be arrested for his stealing. And he may actually even see a thief arrested by the police. Yet he continues to steal. Experience is gathered by hearing and seeing. One who is less intelligent gathers experience by seeing. One who is more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. When an intelligent person hears from the law books and the shastras or scriptures that stealing is not good, and hears that a thief is punished when arrested, then he refrains from theft, because he's intelligent. And he knows, if I do that, I'll get arrested and I'll get punished. So I don't do that. A less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing to learn to stop stealing. However, a rascal, a foolish man, may have the experience of both hearing and seeing, and may even be punished, but still he continues to steal. Even if such a person atones and is punished by the government, he will again commit theft as soon as he comes out of jail. We see that, isn't it? If punishment in jail is considered atonement, then what is the benefit of such atonement? So this is the question. And thus Parikshit Maharaj inquired the following two verses, which are Kvachin nivartate badrat, kvachich charati tat punaha, prayas chittam ato parta kunjara shochavat. So, prayas chitta is the Sanskrit word for atonement. And kunjara shochavat, kunjara bathing. So, now, Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring. He compared atonement to an elephant's bathing. The elephant may take a very nice bath in the river, but as soon as it comes onto the bank, it throws dirt all over its body. Have you ever seen that? In videos and stuff? They do that. That's what the elephant does. So,
How about Dharma?
what is the value of its bathing? What then is the value? Similarly, many spiritual practitioners chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and at the same time commit many forbidden things, thinking that their chanting will counteract their offenses. Of the 10 types of offenses that one can commit while chanting the holy name of the Lord, This offense is called namno balad yasya hi papa buddhi. That means to committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Similarly, certain Christians go to church to confess their sins, thinking that confessing their sins before a priest and performing some penance will relieve them from the results of their weekly sins. As soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes, they again begin their sinful activities expecting to be forgiven the next Saturday. This kind of prayaschita or atonement is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj, who is the most intelligent king of his time. Shukadev Goswami, equally intelligent, as befitting the spiritual master of Maharaj Parikshit, answered the king, and he confirmed that his statement concerning atonement was correct. That it's like a bathing of an elephant. So a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real prayaschita atonement is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. So, sinning and atonement. Sinning and atonement. Rupa Goswami also discusses this, and in Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion he also brings this up. So he's saying that a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by pious activity. But that's what most persons are trying to do in the material world, if they're even a little bit pious. They perform sins and they think that, okay, this will all get forgiven. Yeah, let's go and take some intoxication. We're devotees after all. You know. So he says the real prayaschita, the real atonement is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. Real atonement involves coming to real knowledge. And for this, there is a standard process. When one follows a regulated, hygienic process, then he does not fall sick. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his original knowledge. Such a methodical life is described as tapasya. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge or Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, brahmacharya, by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, by giving up one's possessions in charity, by being avowedly truthful, by keeping clean, and by practicing yoga asanas. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process simply by following the regulated principles of Krishna consciousness. And what is that? Refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. First, one must control his speaking power. Every one of us has the power of speech. As soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. And if we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. We can easily see this, isn't it? Like, okay, we're in a class, everybody's listening, right? Then the class is over. And then what do you immediately start to hear? Everyone starts to talk, right? So here Prabhupada is saying, every one of us, as soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. A toad in a field speaks by croaking. And similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if all he has to say is nonsense. A toad in a field speaks... Oh, wait. The croaking of the toad, however, simply invites the snake. Please come here and eat me. Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. The talking of materialistic men and impersonalist Mayavadi philosophers may be compared to the croaking of frogs. They are always speaking nonsense, and thus they are inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, does not mean self-imposed silence, the external process of mauna, as Mayavadi philosophers think. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately it proves a failure. The meaning of controlled speech conveyed by Srila Rupa Goswami advocates the positive process of Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord, and the preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. So now is time for the artik. I'm getting more accurate every day. And so we've read the very first statement of Rupa Goswami, which is called Vacho, what? Vegam. Vacho Vegam. Everyone say Vacho Vegam. The urge to speak. Okay? So we'll read about the other 5 tomorrow, and then we'll go deeper and deeper, and then we'll study Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, and we will gradually learn how to become pure devotees. Gaur Premanande. Shri Shri Upadeśāmṛtam ki jai. Shri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Shri Rupa Guru Varga ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Gaur Arti ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Jugal Arti ki jai.